All right, so for my article, I chose How Did Dogs Get to the Americas? Um, so the article was titled How Did Dogs Get to the Americas? An Ancient Bone Fragment Holds Clues. So in summary, this article was about scientist Charlotte Lindqvist and her team. They were out collecting a large collection of bones that was, or they were looking at a large collection of bones that were excavated years ago. They were just kind of going through them, identifying these fossils. And so they weren't looking for bone fragments from dogs, but they came across it. And so they were able to trace the mitochondrial genomes of some of these fossils back to similar ones of those of the Southeast Alaskan dog, who shared a common ancestor about 16,000 years ago with American canines. So this kind of gives them a little bit of evidence to be able to discuss how dogs came to the Americas and when did they first come to the Americas, etc. So they also say that further research tells them that canines did not all arrive at once. Of course, there's different breeds. Those that came from Alaska, there's ones that came from, Southeast Asia, different parts of the world, and they didn't all come at the same time. And then there's this quote from the article: Our early dog from Southeast Alaska supports the hypothesis that the first dog and human migration occurred during the Northwest Pacific coastal route instead of the central continental corridor, which is thought to have become viable only about 13,000 years ago. So that's also important information to note when it comes to this article. The good standard to link this to is the third grade standard under science. And it's the second standard having to do with fossils. So it's obtain, evaluate, and communicate information on how fossils provide evidence of past organisms. Part A, construct an argument from observations of fossils, authentic or reproductions, to communicate how they serve as evidence of past organisms and the environments in which they lived in. So this article really connects to part A of this standard. And then part B is develop a model to describe the sequence and conditions required for an organism to become fossilized. So clarification statement: types of fossils, cast, mold, trace, and true are not addressed in the standard. For my additional references, the first one I chose was a YouTube video. This YouTube video is just this super cool video that I found. Let's see. So I just thought this was a great video that kind of explained fossils and the idea of using fossils to connect and find, where animals came from originally. Helps to connect that idea for the students in a more kid-friendly way. And then I think this is And then my second reference was a Webquest. This one was a great one since it's already made for you. It starts with an introduction, so it has like introduction questions, get them started. Then it has the tasks, and then it has the activities. So it comes with a video, and then follow-up questions for the video, another activity, follow-up questions with that activity, and then like an evaluation at the end and a conclusion, and then also resources to help a teacher out if they were utilizing this resource. So this is also another great resource having to do with fossils that I think would link well with this article. For applied teaching, I said that this article aligns really well with the second science standard in the Earth and Space Science section of third grade. And as I said earlier, it specifically pairs well with the Part A of the standard, where it talks about constructing an argument from observations of fossils to communicate how they serve as evidence of past organisms and the environments in which they lived. So I thought a great way to apply this to your teaching, I kind of mirrored what I see in my placement with reading. And I would just say, like, read this article with your students and go through it dissecting. You could definitely do this in like a reading class type format, which I will talk about on the next slide. But just reading through this article with your students, dissecting and understanding, how these fossils helped them figure out that, like, when and how dogs came to America. So this is a great way to connect that idea for them. And then I thought, you could then have your students go and research on another animal that's not a dog, on their own time. So I think that would be a great activity for them to do. They could research and then come up with a PowerPoint. Other content areas, like I said, this is a great way you can connect with ELA and reading. So you can, reading aspect, having them read the article, and then ELA aspect, having them, they could write up a research paper before they start their PowerPoint on another animal that they're trying to find where they originated, based on fossils and stuff like that. So similar article to what we found, but for another animal. And then this is my article citation.